Seches Gittin Daf begins in the middle of the Gemara's discussion of a contradiction between two brises as to what is the status of a ship, a get which is written on the boat. You have to say Nechem there or not. We've seen one explanation of how these two brises are resolved, and now we're going to see a whole nother pshat, which is going to get us into the definition of what is the territory of the Mediterranean Sea considered as a part of Eretz Yisrael, as part of Chutz La'aretz, and if it is, what parts are part of Eretz Yisrael. We'll then go into other borders of Eretz Yisrael and then get into the sugya of an Eved who gets a shtar shichur on himself. So let's begin. So the Gemara has already said the first understanding was that the boat that we're discussing is in the rivers of Eretz Yisrael, and the question is it considered connected to the bottom or not? We compared that to a machlokes about Meiser and Truma. The Gemara now is holding on this second pshat, which is of Nachman Bar Yitzchak, that Truma and Meiser have nothing to do with this whole sugya. Truma and Meiser is about, do you get nutrition from the ground? Writing a get has nothing to do with nutrition. It's about either understanding Hilchos Gittin or being able to retrieve Edom, and it's whether it's considered to be part of Eretz Yisrael. So here the Gemara says we're not talking about a boat which is in the rivers of Eretz Yisrael. We're talking about a boat which is in this sea, the Mediterranean Sea, which is what we call the Yam HaGadol. And there's a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanon. What is the definition of the Yam HaGadol territorially? Which parts of it are part of Eretz Yisrael? According to Rabbi Yehuda, the entire Yam HaGadol pretty much is part of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore he says that you don't have to say Fanei Nachtam. According to the Rabbanon, there is a small slice which is part of Eretz Yisrael. We're talking about outside that slice, and therefore it's Chutz La'aretz, and you do have to say B'fanei Nachtav and Fanei Nachtam. Now the Gemara quotes the Brisa, it says this machlokes, and it identifies the western corners of Eretz Yisrael. So the northwestern corner of Eretz Yisrael, the Gemara calls Turi Amnon, which Rashi says is Har HaHar. It's a mountain which is in the northwest corner. The peak of the mountain is the northwest corner, so the southern slopes of the mountain are part of Eretz Yisrael. The northern slopes of the mountain are outside of Eretz Yisrael. At the top of the mountain, at its peak, there's a city called Kaploria, that is the border city. Now, the southwestern border of Eretz Yisrael is the Nile River Delta, where the river flows into the Mediterranean Sea. That point is the southwestern corner. So if you draw a line from the northwestern corner, which is Har HaHar, to the southwestern corner, which is the Nile River Delta, you will get a straight line that cuts deep into the Mediterranean Sea. According to the Rabbanon, anything which is west of that line is outside Eretz Yisrael. Anything which is east of that line is inside Eretz Yisrael, including islands and sea. Now that's the Rabbanon's opinion. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the entire Mediterranean stretching due west from Eretz Yisrael is all considered part of Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael's borders include the sea to its west as far as it goes, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. Now, he says, how would you define the border? If you want to draw lines in the sea and draw things, what you have to do is draw a line stretching from the northwestern corner of Eretz Yisrael due west. Anything north of that line will be outside Eretz Yisrael. Anything south of it will be inside Eretz Yisrael. And you do the same thing in the southwestern corner of Eretz Yisrael. Draw a line stretching due west, and anything north of that, between that and the northern line, in the ocean will be part of Eretz Yisrael, and anything south of that line will be not between the two lines and will be outside Eretz Yisrael. That is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Now, Rabbi Yehuda brings a pasuk. It says, "Gvul yam v'haya lachem hayam hagadol, u'gvul zeh yeh lachem gvul yam." So it clearly says that the gvul, that the border will be yours. The sea is the border, and the border is yours. So you see that Eretz Yisrael belongs to Eretz Yisrael. It says, the Gemara asks, what are the Rabbanim going to do with that gvul? That the gvul is Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara says that's for the islands. That's to tell you that the islands which are within the range that they hold, that counts. Otherwise, I would have thought not the islands. The islands are out, but even if the sea around them is in. Now, if he disagrees with that, he says you don't need a pasuk for that. So therefore, the Gemara has established this machlokes, and Gemara therefore says the resolution between the two brises is one is each opinion. The Gemara now moves on to discuss the northern border of Eretz Yisrael and the land beyond it, which is Syria, modern day Syria. So the Gemara asks that we saw that Rabbi Meir says in the Mishnah that Akko counts like Eretz Yisrael, and that is the furthest north of Eretz Yisrael. Anything more northerly than that is Syria, and it's outside Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara says, Chashon was asked Rabbi Chiya bar Abba, what is the halach of someone who sells his eved to someone who lives in Syria? Does that count as Chutz La'aretz or does that count as Eretz Yisrael? Why is that important? The halach is if somebody sells an eved to someone who lives outside of Eretz Yisrael, the Eved goes free. And that's because you cannot force the Eved to leave Eretz Yisrael. He's a Jew. He has a mitzvah to live in Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, if you force him to leave, your sale is void and he goes free. Now, so we have to know what the borders are. So the Gemara says that they asked, is Surya part of Eretz Yisrael or not? And I said, you could see from our Mishnah. Rabbi Meir says in the Mishnah that Akko counts as Eretz Yisrael as far as Gittin is concerned. That means that it's only for Gittin because they know the halachos of Gittin. As far as the technical land, it is not Eretz Yisrael. Akko is already Surya. And therefore, the rest of anything past that is certainly Surya and does not count as Surya as far as Eretz Yisrael, as far as the halacha of the Avadim et al. Now the Gemara goes a bit deeper into the discussion of Surya. The Gemara quotes a brayso that says there are 3 ways in which Surya has the halacha of Eretz Yisrael and 3 ways in which it has the halacha of Chutz La'aretz. The Gemara brings a siman, ayin beis, beis reish, reish kuf. So the first letter is ayin, so that refers to the dirt of Surya has the halacha of the dirt of Eretz Yisrael in that it is mitame. The Gemara will discuss all of these at length afterwards. The second halacha is if somebody who sells his eved to Syria, it's like selling it to Chutz La'aretz and he goes free. Third halacha, somebody brings a get from Syria, is like bringing from Chutz La'aretz and asks to say b'fanei nechtam. The 3 ways in which it is like Eretz Yisrael is that it is chayiv. Somebody who goes there is chayiv in meiser shmita, like Eretz Yisrael. And somebody who wants to go in there and to remain tahar can remain tahar. This contradicts what we said earlier that it's mitame. The Gemara will explain. And the last one is that somebody who buys a field there is like he bought it in the suburbs of Yerushalayim. The Gemara will explain that as far as writing sale contracts mostly soon. So now the Gemara explains these one by one. So the Gemara says, first of all, we said that it's chayiv in meiser. Land in Eretz Yisrael is chayiv in meiser and in shmita. That means that it has kedushas Eretz Yisrael. And the reason is because it was conquered by David HaMelech. It was not an official war of the Jews. It was a war that David fought as king on his own. And this Tan is of the opinion that even a war which is fought by an individual ruler, not as representative of all of Klal Yisrael, still gives kedusha as Eretz Yisrael, and therefore it counts as part of Eretz Yisrael. Now the Gemara asks, how can we say that somebody who goes into that land remains tahar? We said that its dirt is tamei. So the Gemara answers, he goes into it inside a box. So we've seen this machlokes in Maseches Nazir, it's machlokes between Rabbi and the Chachamim, between Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, if being inside a box in Chutz La'aretz is mitame or not. The Chazal made outside of Eretz Yisrael metame, tumas oil. And there was a discussion what the reason is. Is it because they just wanted to incentivize people to remain in Eretz Yisrael, or did they give the dirt the din of being a grave wherever it is, and if you pass over it, it's metame? So if you're in the box, so Rabbi holds that it is tamei, Rabbi Yehuda holds that he's always tar. So Rabbi Yehuda holds that he's tar because a moving box is never mekabel tuma. The tumah doesn't pass through it and he's protected. Rabbi says that it's tamei, and the reason that Rabbi says that it's tamei, here we're not talking about Syria, here we're talking about all of Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi holds that a moving box is not makabel tumah, does not prevent it, or he holds that the air of outside Eretz Yisrael is metame automatically because the incentive that they're bought made have to apply. And now the Gemara says as follows: that he said that it applies to all the airspace is only a real Chutz La'aretz, where he was metame the dirt of Chutz La'aretz. Chazal were metame the dirt of Chutz La'aretz that it has din of a mace, and the air of Eretz Yisrael that is a din of an ohel of passing above a mace. However, Surya did not give that halacha. Surya, the dirt may have the halacha of being a mace, but the airspace above it does not have the halacha of being air above a mace. Therefore, if somebody's in a box, according to all opinions, he will not be mekabel tumah in Surya. Next, the Gemara had said that somebody who buys land in the Surya is like he bought in the suburbs of Yerushalayim. What's that relevant for? So Rav Sheshes says you can write a deed of sale even on Shabbos. Gemara says Shabbos? Why should we allowed to do it on Shabbos? Gemara says we're talking about having the guy write it, so it's the only isser is Maisa Akam and Amir Akam, which is a Derabanan, and they waived that halacha in order to encourage purchase of land of Eretz Yisrael. You should have the mitzvah of Yishuv of Eretz Yisrael. They took that rabbinical decree away. Gemara now moves on to the next sugi in our Mishnah, which talked about a get of an eved. So the term get refers to 2 types of release documents. It refers to a release of a woman from a marriage, and also can be used for a get shichar, which is a release of an eved from his servitude to his master. It's still called a get, and it has similar halachos, so we can learn one from the other. So a get shichar, which is a release of an eved, also you have to say b'fanei nechtam on that as well. The Mishnah says so. And the Gemara discusses the case where the Eved gets his own get. Is he believed to say b'fanei nechtam on his own get? And the Gemara implies that he is, just like a woman is believed on her get. Now the Gemara discusses two types of ways of writing that the Eved is free together with all the other property that the master owns. In the first one, he says, and he writes, all my property is given to you. And he says, you and all my property are given to you. That's the first one. He specifies that the Eved is given, and he says all the other property as well. The second version, he doesn't specify the Eved. He just says all my property, which should include the Eved also. And giving the Eved to himself is a way of setting him free. So the Gemara first quotes a brisa that discusses the first case very simply, and it says if he says you and all my property are given to you, then the Eved is bringing his own get. So he's believed on the get shecher part of it, and therefore that part of it works and he goes free. However, he doesn't get the rest of the property because that is a regular monetary document and it doesn't have the halachos of a get to be verified. It has the halachos of any document which requires a beis din to verify, and one Eved, one person, is not believed to verify that. So as far as the property remains unverified, as far as freeing him, it's verified and he goes free. Now the Gemara brings a question where it's combined into one. What happens if he doesn't say you and all my property? He just says all my property are given to you. Now he is part of the property. So therefore, it's implied in that phrase is that he's receiving himself and he goes free and he gets all the other property there. Now we've already said on himself it works, on the rest of the property it doesn't work. Here though, it's one sentence. So can you split that sentence and say it works for one thing and not for something else, what we would call paginon tibur, or can you not split the sentence and therefore it has to either all work or all not work? So this is a machlokes between Abaye and Rava. Rava says you can split it, and therefore Rava says that no matter whether he said you and all my property or he just said all my property, he goes free, but he does not get the property, and we split it. Now Abaye says otherwise. Abaye says no, you can't split it, but Abaye switches as to which way we go. First, Abaye said, because it works for him to go free, the same sentence can't be split. The same sentence also has to work for him to get the property. And Rava asked, why should that be? You should split it. There's no reason that it should work on the rest of the property. And Abaye therefore said the other way. He said, since he doesn't get the rest of the property, because that requires more corroboration, he doesn't get himself either. Again, saying you can't split it. And again, Rava said, I don't see why you can't split it. So that is the machlokes between Abaye and Rava. Can you split it or not? So says the Gemara, Rav Ada bar Masna said to Rava, you are saying like Reb Shimon, who holds that you can split things. And the Chachamim disagree. Where's that? So Gemara goes to Mishnah, and somebody who writes to his Eved, he writes that all his property is given to his Eved. The Eved goes free. And if he writes, all my property is given except one thing, so now you have a machlekes. Tanakama says if he said it, if he started making exceptions, he probably meant to leave the Eved out also. I never meant to give him anything because he's not letting him go free. So nothing's really happening here. According to Reb Shimon, if he didn't say he's leaving out the Eved, he's not leaving out the Eved, even if he's leaving something else out, and the Eved goes free. And we split it, therefore, and the implication is that he can get himself even if he can't get the rest of the property. And therefore he says like Rava. The Rabbi Shimon says the one exception, the one case in which it doesn't work is if he says, I'm giving you everything except one little thing. The other one little thing might be the Eved, and therefore we don't know if he's giving him what he's leaving out because he didn't specify. And therefore it's not going to work for him to get himself because there is no clear gift of himself. There's no clear being set free in that link.